Let's move on because, of course, this week was the total solar eclipse. Certainly a show for Australians, but plans are already getting underway for the next one. So it's in July 2028. So, Brad, if you missed this one, you're going to have to wait another 5 years. Is that right?
It is. 5 years does seem a long time, but, it's a few years down the road. And in this case, you're not going to have a huge travel to Exmouth. The 2028 solar eclipse, 22nd of July, it's going to start in Broome, come across the Northern Territory, southwest Queensland, northwest New South Wales, cutting across Dubbo. Sydney CBD is going to be one of the best places to see this eclipse, believe it or not. So this is kind of going to be the exciting one. The total eclipse, the length of totality, as we say, when the moon completely blocks the sun, will be longer. In Exmouth, it was 58 seconds. It's going to be closer to 4 minutes for this one. And because of the sheer geographical area covered across Australia, including obviously Sydney, there's going to be lots of excitement because there's just how many people will have an ease of opportunity to watch it. And obviously, as we saw with Exmouth, the tourism, there are tens of thousands of people from all across the world that trace these. So this will be a great chance for especially regional New South Wales and Queensland and Northern Territory to get a huge burst of tourism because they're going to want to spread to locations. And in particular, the western central locations of the country where the land and it's very dry, the weather, which means no clouds, which means great eclipse viewing, could really see a big benefit from this.
Oh, how exciting. Well, something to look forward to. So 5 years away, but still, I mean, if you get a good vantage point right in the middle of the CBD of Sydney, gee, you're pretty lucky, Brad. Now, let's move on. New Zealand's Rocket Labs will reuse a rocket for the first time. So what's the process then to be able to reuse a rocket and then make sure it is safe to go again?
Yeah, look, this has been what SpaceX is doing and why they've plummeted the cost of launching into space. They reuse their rockets. That means you're not building it every time and saving money. Now, SpaceX does this by using thrusters, saving a little bit of fuel on board, and thrusters to steer it and guide it back down to Earth. New Zealand has actually been catching this. They've deployed a system of either retrieving it from the ocean as it lands, or even now testing a system where a helicopter mid-air catches the booster with a parachute attached. Now, once it lands, there are obviously, as you said, there's a number of checks to make sure there was no damage to the rocket himself, no systems that were failed. But the sheer fact is, even if there's a little bit of repair necessary or time in the checks, it is much cheaper to reuse the same wing with a little bit of maintenance than a completely new one, right? Just as if we have cars, the ongoing maintenance of a car, yes, it costs a little bit, but much cheaper than buying a new car every time, for instance. And this is another remarkable step in what the industry is doing. They have found a way of making their rockets reusable, and seeing their first rocket reused means that eventually they too can bring even further the cost of their launch services down. And that's the name of the game, space. The cheaper it is to get it, the more activity we will actually see, and then the more benefit from operations based on those systems that are now operating in space we'll see here on Earth.